This beautiful and fiery girl never works, but always has money to spend. Her way of making money is extremely simple. Every day, she just uses binoculars to spy on rich men, then record that person's daily habits. That day the man went to the supermarket, but the water on the floor caught his attention. He subconsciously looked up and saw a beautiful girl choosing wine. Sky then waved to Chris to help. "Do you know anything about wine?" "A little bit. I need someone to give me some advice." So Sky successfully started a conversation with Chris and attracted the other person's attention. She also deliberately wore a soaking wet shirt, the purpose of which was to make her bust sometimes visible, and sure enough, Chris's eyes stopped there for a moment. Seeing Sky's seductive figure, Chris at this time began to be interested in her. After leaving the supermarket, because it was too late, Sky couldn't get a taxi. Just as Chris came out and saw her, he agreed to give her a ride. On the way, Sky complained to Chris that her roommate often used drugs. Just now they had a big argument, but she didn't have any money, so she could only live with her. Chris felt sorry for Sky after hearing that. He wanted Sky to stay at his house for one night. But at this time Sky was a little hesitant and resolutely refused Chris. When Sky got out of the car, she stood at the door hesitating for a long time and refused to go in. Inside, her roommate's scolding could be heard. Chris saw Sky standing outside the door and knew her situation, so he backed up the car and once again invited Sky to stay at his house temporarily. This time she finally agreed. This villa is worth $20 million, but for Chris it's just the tip of the iceberg, because every day he can earn $200,000 just by sitting around. This is also the reason Sky targeted him. Looking at this luxurious villa, an inexperienced girl like Sky was secretly happy. Chris eagerly opened a bottle of wine. Originally he only intended to take a sip, but Sky drank the whole glass in one go. Seeing the girl bite the bait so easily, Chris hurriedly poured her a full glass. Finally Sky drank so much that she took off her coat. Seeing the ice cream in Chris's hand, Sky directly took it. "May I ask, who wouldn't love such a beautiful woman?" Chris, seeing this seductive sexiness, couldn't stay calm anymore. He opened the cabinet in the house for Sky to see. Inside was a row of brilliant high-class red wines. Chris directly chose the most expensive bottle. Then the two sat on the sofa and slowly enjoyed it. Under the stimulation of alcohol, the atmosphere also began to become hazy. Until Sky took off Chris's glasses, what had to come finally came. I don't know how late the two had fun, but when Chris woke up, Sky was gone. Sky was also very tired when she got home. She lay on the bed and started thinking about the next step of her plan. Chris is in the process of divorcing his ex-wife, so he is still not satisfied. So he went to the bar where Sky worked. Because he wanted to be able to continue seeing her again, Chris made a lifetime membership card. This made a girl who only had money in her eyes like Sky extremely happy. When she got off work, she put her arm around Chris's arm. Originally, the two intended to have fun again tonight, but unexpectedly they met a car thief who ruined their mood. The thief was not afraid and even insulted the two of them. To protect Sky, Chris was hit in the leg with an iron rod. As a result, Chris hugged his painful leg and screamed on the street. From a healthy young man, he is now a cripple, and the current situation requires someone to take care of him. Originally, he intended to hire a nanny, but Sky said that hiring a nanny was not as good as hiring her. In the evening, she could also play with him. After saying that, she didn't wait for Chris to agree and got up to go home to pack her things. With such seductive long legs, who wouldn't be fascinated? Chris also inadvertently gave her the house password, so Sky was gradually closer to her plan. Returning to her rental house, she saw the landlord teasing her roommate. Ronald was not only greedy for money, but also lecherous. He often spied on Sky while she was taking a shower, and when he heard she was about to move out, he mocked her. Sky smiled sinisterly and turned to go into the room, but in her heart she thought about how she would deal with Ronald later. After packing her things, she said goodbye to her roommate Lisa. In fact, she always took advantage of this foolish girl because only this rental house could see Chris's house. Now that she has succeeded, Lisa is no longer of any value. Then she had to continue to implement her plan. Sky let Chris enjoy the feeling of being taken care of gently and attentively. After Chris fell asleep, she secretly took his phone, then used facial recognition to unlock it, because Chris's phone can control everything in the house. When Chris woke up and found his phone missing, he suspected Sky had taken it. He picked up her bag to check and found photos of Sky and her roommate. Just then something accidentally fell to the ground. Sky heard the noise and came out, knowing that Chris still had doubts about her. Sky immediately took off her bathrobe to please Chris. But that night when Sky returned to her room alone, her face changed. That day Ronald came to the rental house to collect money. He knocked on the door for a long time, but no one answered. So he used the spare key to open the door. When he entered, he found Sky's roommate had committed suicide in the bathroom. Ronald immediately reported to the police. He said Lisa couldn't have committed suicide. Lisa's roommate had just moved out, and she was like this. The police couldn't find out Sky's identity at all. What secret did Sky have that she had to hide her identity? The next day, Chris woke up and found his phone was missing again. He hurried downstairs to look and saw the news on TV. The more Chris looked, the more familiar this person was. He remembered seeing a photo of the two of them together in Sky's bag. Just then, Sky came back with fried chicken. Chris didn't understand why Sky was so happy. Didn't she know her roommate had died? He was curious, so he casually asked Sky about the incident and told her to report it to the police. But unexpectedly, Sky said that she was the one who killed Lisa. Hearing this answer, Chris stared in fear. Sky was not worried and recounted the whole process. She originally only wanted to take advantage of Lisa, but unexpectedly this rebellious woman fell in love with her. On the day she moved out, she didn't let her leave. There was no other way. Sky could only kill her. Chris, after hearing, wanted to show some male authority, but how could a cripple like him cause any trouble? He became angry and demanded Sky get out of his house immediately. But at this time the whole house was controlled by Sky. Chris wanted to grab back the phone, but was electrocuted and fainted. When Chris woke up, he was tied to a wheelchair by Sky. Sky forced him to ask how much his account password was. But facing this scary woman, his dirty mouth still refused to be honest. Even so, Sky still pleased him. Then she picked up an electric drill next to her, the purpose of which was to force Chris to tell all his passwords and security codes. Finally, Chris couldn't take it anymore and set his bank password. Sky achieved her goal of transferring an asset from Chris. Over here, while Ronald was cleaning Lisa and Sky's room, he found Sky's binoculars were still there. He curiously looked in and saw Sky abusing Chris. It turned out that after transferring a sum of money, Sky found that Chris still had tens of millions of bonds, so she wanted to take them all. So she took scissors and untied Chris, because his fingerprints were the password. But as soon as she cut the rope, Chris grabbed her. The two of them lost their balance and fell to the ground. Sky picked up the scissors and stabbed them straight into Chris's chest. Seeing that Chris refused to give her the bonds, Sky held up the phone to show him. On it were Chris's wife and children. She wanted to use it to threaten him. So this really worked. Then Sky drained all the power in Chris's house and prepared to sell all the valuable items in this villa. At this time, the customer came to the villa. After the man entered the house, Chris found that he was the car thief they met that day. It turned out that from the beginning to the end, it was Sky's plan. They were all targeting Chris's assets. When the two left the villa that had been sold off, the landlord quietly drove to the villa. When Chris saw someone on the camera, he hurriedly called for help. Ronald picked up a brick and smashed the window. Immediately, Sky's phone on this side issued a warning signal. Everything in the villa was still being monitored by Sky. Seeing something unexpected happen, she hurriedly turned around. Ronald still didn't know the danger was approaching. He looked around at all the furniture in the house. It turned out that he didn't come to rescue people, but also get some money. Ronald removed the tape for Chris, but actually wanted him to tell him what was valuable in this house. With no other choice, Chris told Ronald that the painting on the wall was worth $6 million, and he would give it to him if he was untied. Ronald was also very trustworthy, but while he was untying him, Sky came back. Ronald wanted to run away, but she closed all the doors. Seeing no way out, he grabbed the knife next to him. But Sky's expression was very calm. She pulled out a long sword from behind her. Ronald was scared and hurriedly backed away and ran upstairs. But Sky didn't rush towards Chris, letting him watch her kill the old man. Then Sky excitedly went to find her prey. Every action of Ronald was under her surveillance, because in this villa there were cameras everywhere. Just a phone could control everything. Sky looked at the surveillance screen on the phone and found Ronald's hiding place. The two immediately engaged in a battle, but Ronald clearly couldn't defeat Sky. At the crucial moment, he said that the painting was worth $6 million. At the same time, Chris downstairs struggled to get out of the tape. He limped out of the building to a snowmobile. Hearing Ronald's screams, he sped up for fear Sky would catch up. But because he was speeding too fast, the brakes failed, and Chris himself was thrown out. Just then a car rushed over. Seeing the car owner get out, Chris hurriedly asked him for help. He said he was being chased by a woman. Seeing this, the man hurriedly helped Chris into the car. Sebastian quickly took Chris to the hospital and even gave him the phone to call the police. But when Chris thought he had been rescued, he saw the car return to his house. It turned out that Sebastian was also Sky's accomplice. When he woke up, he was tied to a wheelchair and couldn't move. At this time, Sky came over and forced Chris to give up his debt property rights, and she would let him go, but Chris would rather die than obey. Without his fingerprints, Sky couldn't enter the vault, but Chris underestimated their ruthlessness. Sky tightened Chris's neck. Sebastian pressed his hand on the table and neatly cut off his finger. While he was suffering intense torture, his ex-wife and daughter came to the villa at this time. The daughter just entered the door and ran to find her father, but Jamie saw the broken glass in front of the door. She didn't know what had happened. Just then little Willow went upstairs and met Sky. She calmly picked up Willow and went downstairs. Sky confidently introduced herself as Chris's private nurse, but with a woman's intuition Jamie felt Sky was not safe at all. At this time Sebastian also came out from behind. As a result, Chris's ex-wife and daughter were also thrown into the dark room. Unexpectedly, the three-member family reunited in this situation. At the same time, Sebastian tied Chris's finger to his hand. Then he quickly drove towards the vault, while Chris accidentally found a ventilation hole in the dark room. He thought of a way to have his daughter crawl inside. Then she would open the door from the outside. At this time, Sebastian found the vault manager. He used Chris's finger to open the code lock, although at first it didn't go smoothly. But finally the fingerprint was accepted. Then the manager led the two to the safe to take all the debt papers inside. But when they opened it, they were completely shocked, because inside were not tens of millions of debts, but just a pile of worthless waste paper. It turned out that Chris and his wife were in the process of divorce. Jamie's lawyer was afraid that if they didn't reach an agreement with Chris, they would secretly transfer the bonds. Sky and Sebastian, unable to get the bonds, hurriedly returned to the villa. Sebastian looked at the surveillance camera on the phone and saw Willow running outside. After returning, the two started searching separately. When Sebastian went to a room inside, there was a noise. He pressed against the door to see if there was someone inside. But when he opened the door, Chris rushed to attack unexpectedly, but he was no match for Sebastian. Sky heard the noise and hurriedly ran over. She pointed the gun and asked where his wife and children were. Sebastian next to her urged her to shoot Chris quickly. But looking at Chris's appearance, Sky remembered the beautiful moments they were together. So she turned around and shot Sebastian first. Taking advantage of that opportunity, Chris picked up the weapon next to him and attacked Sky's neck. He also picked up the phone and ran away. He hid in a secret room and turned off all the lights in the house through the phone. Sky's every move could not escape his control. Waiting for the right moment, Chris decided to ambush. But because he was crippled in one leg, he couldn't defeat her. Sky picked up the weapon next to her and attacked Chris repeatedly. Although Chris counterattacked, it didn't hurt her at all. It even made Sky more angry. But unexpectedly, Jamie rushed out to attack Sky, then repeatedly hit her head against the wall. But soon after Sky counterattacked, Sky slashed Jamie's leg. She painfully crawled towards Chris. At this time, Sky stood up and prepared to finish them both off. At the critical moment, her daughter Willow appeared with a gun and shot Sky straight. Thanks to this, their family escaped from this female assassin. The movie has come to an end. If you like it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Goodbye, and see you next time.